Want them once a month. Mammoth Lakes. Hi, Courtney. Relaxing, yes. I'm going to be picking up pine needles. That's my weekend task. Defensible space. Hi, Arthur. Thanks for joining us. He's going to the park. Wendy wants to know, why aren't I at the CAPSI retreat? Yes, greener grass and flowers blooming. I put a nice picture of our mountain lupins or lupines. Not sure exactly. We had rain, yes, beautiful. We had snow in Tahoe.
For those of you who are just joining and wondering what's going on in the chat, I was just doing a little sound and video check and was asking people to type in something they're excited about in the coming week.
Welcome, Julie from Atascadero, North Fork Rancheria, Tribal TANF. I have a dear friend, Carrie Collins, in Atascadero. Thunderstorms, yes. Lucy, what do you say we get started?
Sounds good. Great. Well, welcome everyone. I hope you're having a beautiful Tuesday. And as you can look outside out of your office window, or if you're still working at home, you'll see this is a great day and a great day to come together. One of the opportunities that we bring today is to just bring community together that really have rural counties in common, that we work in rural counties, that we serve rural families. And our goal today is to be able to have a discussion, a conversation with you, share some resources, some tools, some strategies that you can take back into your organization, into your work, into your community, to help you create a stronger linkage between coordination of services and obviously strategizing how your programs can hopefully develop some outreach strategies and approaches to serving our rural families. So welcome. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here this morning, sharing with us 2 hours of your time. We are going to be today launching our second child abuse prevention planning in rural communities learning exchange. And this is a cohort, meaning that our goal is that you continue to join us for every cohort exchange meeting that we are presenting, and we will be talking more about what the dates are, and hopefully join us, as this is a series of strategies that we're bringing to you that are customized specifically for rural counties. And as a cohort, learning together, getting to know you, getting to hear about your programs, what your agency is currently doing. And overall, our purpose is to help you and guide you into promoting some internal conversations, some countywide conversations with your Child Abuse Prevention Council to develop a prevention plan. The prevention plan ultimately is to support your community in reducing child abuse and to look at some preventative measures. And so that is why we bring these strategies to you today. So with that, we're going to get started, and I would like to share a little bit about who we are. So if this is your first time, welcome. And if it is, we want to share with you who we are. We are Strategies Technical Assistants, and we are actually funded by the Office of Child Abuse Prevention. We feel very honored to be able to provide support to counties throughout the state of California, in where we can support them in developing a prevention plan to reduce child abuse in their communities. Our focus, Barbara and I actually team up with Bryn, and we actually, the three of us, actually plan out different topics to bring to you every session. And today, our goal is to be able to help you identify strategies to build trust and engage with families that live in isolated areas, especially because we know that in rural communities, we have geographical barriers. We have, sometimes lack of infrastructure. We don't have maybe the bandwidth to connect with our clients. And both Barbara and I work and serve rural counties. And so it is very close to our heart to bring this to you because we live in rural counties and we know how we've had to juggle and have multiple hats. You may be the director, but you're also providing direct services and you're also writing the grants. It's just, something that we have to do in a rural county. And so we welcome you because our goal is to be able to guide you and help you navigate through some of these strategies that we are presenting to you, along with speakers that actually have some customized tools to share with you today. And if someone is not able to attend today, maybe a colleague or a partner, an agency, entity that is part of your maybe Child Abuse Prevention Council or your collaborative, and they are missing today's session, please let them know that our sessions will be recorded, are actually being recorded, and they will be posted on our YouTube channel within the next week. And so feel free to also go back and watch our video, subscribe, click on the like, and share with others to allow us to bring more of this customized strategy sessions to you via YouTube. So with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to have Barb take us through our first module.
Well, we're just going to introduce the team first, our Strategies TA team. So I'm Barbara DeGraff. Many of you know me. I am the Strategies TA consultant for the Sierra region. So I'm currently working actively with Sierra County in developing a prevention plan, Calaveras County in developing a child abuse prevention plan, Amador County is getting on the train and is going to start prevention planning, and El Dorado as well. So I am, as Lucy said, I'm honored to be here and thrilled to see the number of people. And we're going to learn a little bit more about you folks in a minute. But you can see right now we have 72 participants on. For registration, we had over 100 people registered and representing over 30 counties. So we're hoping to really have a great exchange with all of you. Lucy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. And my name is Lucy Hernandez, and I am a consultant for Strategies Technical Assistance. And I have had the pleasure to serve as consultant and trainer with Strategies since 2017. And I've had the pleasure to meet with many of you. And I may currently be working with your county as well. We are just, as I mentioned, even though we specialize in our regions, I serve the northern from Sacramento up north are my areas. And I also, I'm a secondary back up to the North Bay counties. We actually came together, Barbara and I, to be able to customize these sessions for our rural counties. And so with that, I will let Bryn introduce herself as well.
Hello, my name is Bryn Pascal, and I am the Data Support Specialist for Strategies TA. I will be producing today's convening, which means if you have any tech issues, any questions, you can send me a chat. You may notice today that we are lucky enough to have ASL interpretation and closed captioning. I sent a link to closed captions in the chat. I will resend it again in case you weren't on yet. And if you have any questions about how to utilize these services, let me know. But I have spotlighted both of our ASL interpreters if you are deaf or hard of hearing. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to send me a chat and I'll be helping out.
Thank you, Bryn. And then Lucy, do you want to introduce our guest facilitator?
Yes, thank you. So we are actually really pleased to share with you that we have invited Melissa Santos is actually going to be sharing with us in a few minutes a little bit more about her Celebrating Families project. And Mrs. Santos is a national trainer for the Celebrating Families and also the director of the California Expansion Project. in collaboration with the Prevention Partnership International and the California Office of Child Abuse Prevention Project, which is OCAP. Melissa provides training, technical assistance, and model fidelity oversight for the California OCAP project. She is also currently the Senior Director of Professional Development and Organizational Initiatives at Community Solutions, overseeing internal clinical training, leadership development, community-based training, and strategic initiatives. Melissa has facilitated both the parent and preschool groups for Celebrating Families. Melissa is a graduate of the Rhode Island College School of Social Work, where she earned her Bachelor of Social Work degree. She has 20 years of experience in the behavioral health field, with a focus on families impacted by substance abuse disorders, and also the criminal justice system. This also includes the creation of a pilot program at the Child Advocates within the Dependency Drug Treatment Court in collaboration with Judge Len Edwards. She has been an advisor and consultant to Prevention Partnership International for 15 years. Wow. Melissa is also a member of the Santa Clara County Touchpoints training team and facilitates trainings on trauma-informed care, mindfulness, and recovery throughout the region. Melissa is a mother of two with two beautiful young daughters. So with that, I will go ahead and have Barbara lead us into the next section. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yay, we're very excited. So just an idea of the flow for the morning. We're going to start out with our welcome today, and we're going to do some pair sharing activities. So we're going to get into groups of two, and we're going to talk a little bit and get to know each other. If you did not receive the materials that I sent out, I did try to email to everyone before the meeting a little description of what a learning exchange is. It was a learning exchange one-pager, as well as we call it a new member packet. And it basically just explains a little more about what the Learning Exchange project is, as well as a little bit about strategies, technical assistance. So if this is your first learning exchange and you hopefully had time to look at that. If not, Bryn will put links to the documents in our chat, and you can take a look at that. We hope that for each of our meetings, as people come in, we'll give them the new member information, and that way we can just kind of roll into the content of these meetings. We have 2 hours. We want to use them wisely. Also, if you have any questions about learning exchanges, please feel free to contact Lucy or myself. We're always happy to help you. Our email addresses, if you haven't received enough from me already, are going to be at the end of the presentation. And I'll be sending all this material out to all of you after the meeting. Excuse me. Somebody's calling me. Let's get rid of that person. I also, then we'll go into our presentation from Melissa, and she's got a lot of great activities planned for us. We want to really make this as interactive as possible. So we want to put the exchange in learning exchange. We want to learn and exchange. Then we'll talk about dates and topics for next year. So at the end, we hope you'll hang in there with us. If you can't, well understood, but we did set dates for the full program year 21-22. I still can't believe that it's 21-22. I'm still thinking it's 2020. And we'll talk a little bit about some ideas we have for topics and get feedback from you all about topics. And then we'll have a closing and evaluation where we'll have a link to the evaluation document. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Again, any questions, let us know. And if you have to pop in and pop out, we don't have a break planned specifically. Feel free, take whatever you need for self-care. And then we'll talk a little bit about the outcomes for today, what we hope to get out of our morning. So we're hoping that folks are going to actively engage in the learning exchange cohort meeting. And it's really important to us that we provide that forum for you. So if you have ideas about how we could improve the format, let us know. We look at every evaluation and we take your information in and we try to improve the learning exchange. We want you to be exposed to your peers, and you have many, many peers here. So we're hoping you'll have time to learn and meet with other folks and learn from each other, and then leave here with concrete strategies that you can use to build trust and engage families, and strategies that you can think about incorporating on not only a systems level, but a direct service level, because we have a great mixture of folks on the event today, both direct service folks and folks that are working on the systems level. Okay, Lucy, you want to take us through some of our getting to know each other?
Yes. So here we've talked a little bit about who we are. We also presented our guest speaker that will be speaking in the next couple of minutes. But now we want to know who's here with us. So we would like for you to just take a minute or so of your time and please type in the chat box your name, your agency, your county, and one word or phrase that describes your experience or your understanding of prevention planning. So if you could just take a moment to share with us in the chat box, we would love to see who's here with us. Many of you are on camera, which is great to always see faces.
Yes.
Honestly, Barbara and I have been talking about that. We feel like we are in this bubble and we haven't really seen people. We only see people through video now. That's our status quo. And so when we get to see faces, it's just really exciting because there's humans, there's more people out there. So if you're on camera, thank you, because we get to see you. But if you're not on camera, we still want to know who's here with us, and feel free to add that into the chat box. So
Hi,
once again,
Pat.
enter your chat in the chat box, your name, your agency name, what county, or maybe if you serve multiple counties, we'd love to hear. And one word or phrase to describe your experience with child abuse prevention planning. So, or your understanding, if you're not involved, share with us as well. So, and just quickly, you're seeing the chat, we'll be reading some of these, some of our members. So let's see who we have so
Well,
far.
I see Robin Davis. Robin, I work with closely in First Five Calaveras, and they want to go from being reactive to proactive. Woo! And that is what we're working on in Calaveras. And Tammy in the Sierras, messy. Perfect, Tammy. It is messy. Child abuse prevention planning is messy. I love it.
Hey, this is not fair, Barbara. A lot of your counties you work with are here.
I know. Tracy, hi, Tracy. They're starting. Yay. They're starting prevention planning with us. They've been doing quite a bit themselves, but
wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, Chelsea from the Yurok tribe. Yurok tribe social worker. You're new to prevention planning. Well, welcome. We're excited. And Chelsea, we at Strategies, if you are interested in maybe obtaining some assistance, support, technical assistance for your prevention planning efforts or child abuse prevention planning efforts, please let us know. We are here to support you. Visit our website. We are grant funded. So once again, we are here to support you and the great work you do every day.
Alyssa, El Dorado County, woo, my home county, and prevention planning, intersectionality, love it. Elizabeth March from Humboldt, eligible, nice, foster care program.
Humboldt, one of my counties, yes.
Yay. Terry Lane, hi Terry. Big brothers, big sisters of Humboldt, great. And Terry, you are a great supporter of prevention planning. Okay, all right. Well, we can keep looking and reading, but I think we have to move on to our first group, because it's 10 of, and I'm going to not let time be my nemesis today.
Yes, so we are, and I hope everyone has had either their coffee or tea, because we are going fast. After this one, we are just stepping on the pedal and going fast. So what we would like to do is, the most important part for us is that a learning exchange is about peer learning. And we wanted to incorporate an opportunity for you to get to know someone in the group. And what we're going to do is we're going to pair you up. So this is just a dyad, 2 people in a group, and you're going to spend 5 minutes with each other in a breakout room, and you're going to take turns. You're going to introduce yourself to your colleague and share about your work and share about your county. And this is just a quick 5-minute activity, and hopefully it gives you an opportunity to hear from another county that perhaps you can start interconnecting or sharing ideas. So with that, Bryn, let's go ahead and open up the breakout rooms, and we will see you in 5 minutes. Don't forget, introduce yourself, share about your great work and about your county with each other. 5 minutes. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
I will let you all know ahead of time. If you are in need of ASL interpretation, Barb sent out some information about video relay services since our interpreters will not be in the room with you. But you can also choose to stay in the main room should you need interpretation services. And for Barb, Lucy, and the interpreters, it will try to send you into a group automatically, unfortunately, but I put you all in one group so you won't have to
Okay.
do anything and you can always choose to stay out.
Okay. Thank you. Good
And
job.
if you get to a group and you're the only person there, feel free to send me a message, but I'll also be monitoring that. So make sure you have someone to talk to.
Yeah, we don't want you to be alone for
We'll
5
join
minutes.
you.
You
We
may
will
want to be
let you
alone, but
Yeah, if you get there and you don't want to talk to anyone,
that's fine.
you don't have to let me know. I am opening the rooms now.
Great.
Myself. Welcome back as you start coming back out of the breakout rooms. Here, everybody's coming back. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you got to know somebody that somebody new. And I think we're going to do it one more time. We're going to take another 5 minutes, do one more pair share. And it's going to also be, Brenna's just going to put you in rooms randomly. When everybody gets back, we'll go back out again one more time. But first, everybody has to come in before we can.
And the goal here is that you get to meet as many people. Sometimes we're in these trainings and webinars and sessions, and we are listening to the information, may participate in an activity, but we rarely really get to interact with someone else. And our goal is that you connect with others, because the work we do, it's really nice to have a safety net, have a support system, and someone you can call up to ask for resources and really build that social capital for your county. So we're going to do this again, and
One more time, Brenda. Yeah.
Yep,
Go back to the.
Just a moment to make sure I've got everyone in rooms.
How maybe a thumbs up. How was your first pair up? Was it good? Too short?
Good.
Was it good?
Well,
okay.
we're gonna yeah.
Sort of. Okay. Oh, I like that. Robin used her icon.
Thumbs up, right? Yeah. Don't you have a little reaction button on the far right?
Yeah, I was gonna say emoji, but that's not right.
You can laugh. You can cry. You can tell us to talk slower.
Yes.
I don't think you'd
I
ever
love
tell
it.
me to talk faster.
I love seeing people on the cameras. It's nice to see everyone. Hi, Ben. If you're in Northern California, can you just raise your thumb? I just want to know who's in Northern California. Oh, okay, Ben, Leah, Lucio, Carol, Arthur, Pat, Maria, Amy, Angie. Oh, wow, we have more Chelsea. They're moving fast, so now. Oh, wow, yay. Well, I'm Northern California, so welcome, my neighbors.
All
and
right.
if you're in Sierra Central, oh, okay. We'll go ahead and move and then we'll come back.
Okay.
We'll see you in 5 minutes. Enjoy.
Meet your There we go. As soon as everybody gets back, we're going to open up a quick poll and ask you all what you thought of the activity. And it's anonymous, so be honest, because we really want to make these events work for you. I don't know how long we'll be doing them 100% remotely, but I'm assuming no matter what happens in our future, there'll be a remote piece. So it's really important to us to get a feel for, are these activities working for you? And the more feedback we get, the better we can tailor it to your needs. So as soon as everybody's back, Bryn can open up the next slide and open up the poll. And I would encourage folks to read the chat and see all the people that are on. We have some great folks, and you can always make connections with people in the chat. Ask for folks' phone numbers if you want to learn more about people. It's a great way to get to know folks. So here's our poll, and the question is, was it too long? Was it too short? Was it just right? And I just want to say that we have 3 bears across the street. So that was the inspiration for the poll. I have a mama and her cubs living, bedding down across the street from us. So, all right. So for a few of you thought it was too long, a few too short, and mostly just right, which is great. That's wonderful. How many people? We have a few more folks to vote. Please vote, vote, vote. We have 42 out of 59. Ah, the Bears. Yeah. Yes, the Bears are out. I got to watch the babies climb I am not exaggerating, 80-foot tree while mama sat and just slept, completely nonplussed. And there they went up the tree, up, up, up. It's amazing. All
I
right.
just wanted to say also, thank you so much for everyone that put down your information on the chat box. A lot of names and agencies that we recognize, a lot of colleagues, friends that we recognize, so welcome. So thank you for doing that. And if you haven't had a chance, please write your name, your county, your agency, and just a word to describe your experience in child abuse prevention planning. And so with that, we'll go ahead and
all right. We can share the results, and so you should be able to see them. And it seems like we are a few too long, a few too short, but generally just right. Excellent. Okay.
And we have some comments. Jesus says he really enjoyed the breakout room, so thank you.
Good. Great. All right, so let's go on to the next slide, please.
Actually, sorry, not his
some people can't see the poll depending on what kind of browser you're using.
Oh.
Difficulties, but if you have opinions, there will be a evaluation at the end.
Yes. And you can always chat as well. We keep the chat as well. So feel free. But if you want to be more anonymous, evaluation is anonymous. So I just want to share before we introduce Melissa and get to the meat of the day or the morning. In your registration, we asked you some questions about what you saw as your key challenges. And it was very, very, very interesting. Many repetitive and answers. And I tried to divide them up into system level challenges and direct service level challenges. From the system level, none of these are going to be a surprise to folks, but multiple people, I think almost half, talked about transportation, large geography. And these are all your challenges in reaching out to those families that are isolated, that are living out in the rural communities. How difficult it is to access services, broadband access, continuing issue, and programs can be designed for larger audiences. So programs that are evidence-based or evidence-informed assume a larger audience, assume the whole family will participate, and it's really hard to get the numbers that you need. And then direct service level, you have the challenge of virtual services, how to keep families engaged, which we all are grappling with. How to make that initial contact so that people will get back to you. A lot of people said, you reach out and you don't hear anything back. And then meeting the basic needs of the families, which I think, one of the things Melissa will share, how meeting basic needs can be one of those ways to build trust. So with that, I'm going to introduce Melissa Santos. She's going to take us through some information and some activities on how we can work with our rural families. Take it away, Melissa.
Okay. Let me get my screen shared. All right. Pardon me for a minute while I get myself situated. I too like to see the faces so I don't feel like I'm completely. Hi,
Yeah,
Ben. Oh, thanks for the wave, Ben. Hi, Angie. Well, I'm really excited to be with you all today. Barbara and Lucy, thank you for inviting me. And so I'm in Gilroy, California, and my bestie is up in McKinleyville. So I saw we had someone from McKinleyville. So you Humboldt Pete's, I'm headed up there next week. And so as Barbara said, I'm full-time. I work for an organization called Community Solutions. We're a mid-sized behavioral health organization that provides mental health support, substance abuse treatment services, as well as domestic violence, human trafficking, and commercially sexually exploited youth services. And Barbara and Lucy and I got connected through the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, as Lucy mentioned, because I'm a lead in California for an evidence-based practice called Celebrating Families, which all that information will be at the end, but that work is with families impacted by substance use disorders. And because I see some of you from Native communities, we're actually working with the Sherwood Band of Pomo Indians in Ukiah. And so they are one of our pilot sites, and then working with a bunch of people down in Apple Valley. So also supporting folks from those more rural communities that have quite a wide reach, where we were joking, where their mileage check can sometimes be more than their paycheck, right? I'm sure some of you might be able to relate to that. So what we're going to spend some time talking about today, and I'm going to present some information. And actually, Bryn, if you could pop that handout into the chat. There was a handout that got sent out ahead of time, but also Bryn will pop it in the chat, and just hopefully helpful for you just to guide your note taking. Because my hope in a learning exchange is that you leave with something helpful, right? Or multiple helpful things, not just connections that you can use in your work. And what I'm excited to talk about today, I can only imagine that all of you, especially given those answers to the questions you were asked before the training, that engagement is something you talk about all the time. And many of us do, right? There's that whole part of how are we going to get people into our services? And also, what many of us have all talk about trauma-informed care. I just wonder how often we talk about them together, thinking about how we're engaged, being trauma-informed in our engagement strategies to increase the likelihood that families and individuals will engage with us. So that's what we're going to look at today, is engagement through the lens of best practices in trauma-informed care. We're going to start with a mindful moment so that we start in a trauma-informed way together. I'm going to talk just about, it's a kind of a reminder because we're all living it, but just to honor all of the impacts of this past year on communities and all of you as providers, all of us together, really. Then we'll move into, as I mentioned, utilizing trauma-informed stages of recovery specific for engagement. And then you're going to have a bunch of time to get together in small groups and talk through the service philosophy principles that I'm going to present, and kind of brainstorm ideas about what are things you might already be doing within your organizations you can share with one another, and what ideas might have popped up as part of our discussion. And then we'll come back together, do some sharing, and have time for closing. So let's start with the mindful moment. So I'm going to ask you can keep your camera on, you can keep your camera off, you can keep your eyes open or closed, you can stare at me, my eyes are going to be closed, but to get comfortable in whatever chair you're in, relax your body with your feet flat on the floor and just give yourself the gift of a couple of moments coming in to the present. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your chest and your belly, and release slowly out of your mouth. As you release, lower your shoulders. Lengthen your spine as if there's a string coming out of the top of your head. Another deep breath. Coming into the silence of this space. The sense of community, the sense of commitment. Notice your forehead and your eyebrows. Just focus on that space and relax. I know for me, every time I do this, I notice that there was tension there. And when I release the tension there, I tend to also release any tension in my jaw, shoulders. Notice your lower back, down through your hips, through your knees, down through your ankles, and into your toes. One more deep breath. And release. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back. Thanks for sharing that moment with me. I needed that from this morning. We're doing so much transition, virtual transition these days, right? From one Zoom to the next. So I'm speaking to the choir here, but I always like to ground us in what we're talking about when we use the word trauma, defining trauma. And trauma is my perception that my physical, psychological, or emotional safety is in jeopardy for myself or someone that I care about. There's not a list, a checklist of things that are traumatic or not. So many things are based on our current life situation, our cultural or historic lens, and then all the experiences in between, right? Where two of us may go through the same experience and one of us may experience it as traumatic, or the other one's like, oh, that was kind of stressful for a second, but I wouldn't call it traumatic, right? So it's one's own perception. It's really important to ground ourselves in that, I think, because it can be easy based on our own experience to assume whether something was traumatic or not for someone else. Oh, it wasn't that serious. It was only a fire drill at school. Well, right, but if I have a history of trauma and my cortisol gets running in my body, I may not be able to shut it off as easily as you are. And so for me, that was traumatic. So something that is so profoundly unique about the past, year and a half, really, is how much trauma we've been experiencing as communities, as a society, as a human race. And absolutely to say we're all in this together is a bit of a stretch, right? Because me as a white woman certainly has had a very different experience than my colleagues of color or people who are living in unsafe neighborhood, right? So there's an individual experience, but typically in our work, many of us were drawn to this work because some experience we or someone in our family and our communities had. We did our work to kind of move past those experiences. And that work plus our education gives us a way to now help others, right? But we're like we're a step ahead, right? We've gone through and learned how to help others. When for this past year and a half with all we've been experiencing it's all been in real time, experience it together. We don't get it. We haven't gotten a chance, whether we are parents, educators, direct service providers, in leadership roles, we have not had the opportunity to get a step or two ahead, figure out our game plan, and respond, because we've all been experiencing it together. And there's been a lot, right? The pandemic, shelter in place where we can't, like where we're talking to each other through Brady Bunch boxes right now, right? This was not our work prior. Economic instability. Gun violence that's been there for sure, but just at this heightened level around racial injustice and just attacks and hate crimes, along with political divide. So much to hold ourselves, for our colleagues, and for those we support, on top of all of the other ACEs and traumas, right, that are part of the work that we do. And now we get even another bubble, which is this reentry anxiety, right? Are you guys experiencing that? For our organization, May 15th was the day we were coming back into the office. You can see I'm still home. I have some reentry anxiety. And our office is never really closed, but this idea of, okay, I'm just getting my groove here at home with my dogs and my kids in school and all at home, right? And now having to do another big shift back sort of into the office. And what does that look like? And is it safe? And do I wear a mask? And what if my kid is still at home doing school? Do I leave them home alone? And, just all of those, our pets who are used to being used to us being home, and now we're going to be leaving them for hours at a time. So that's real. And then many of us were also first responders in so many ways for the past 18 months, right? I don't know about all of you, but I'm sure many of you, when, one day we were providing behavioral health services and training, and the next day we were figuring out how to get N95 masks and, hand sanitizer out to our staff, kind of jumped into responder mode. How do we keep our staff safe, the people we serve safe? How do we figure out this whole Zoom thing? How do we get our clients technology, all the things you guys talked about in the beginning as far as your challenges? Those were not things necessarily that we were thinking about. And we thought our cortisol levels went because we had to figure this all out. And then we've been holding all of this for the past year and a half or so as individuals. There's a great term I learned in one of the webinars. I liked it anyway, as part of our working from home, which was unpaid coworkers. Right? So never before was I working with both of my kids, both of my dogs, my nephew, maybe your mother-in-law, whatever, the neighbor needs milk, like work and home, that work-life balance was much easier when you could kind of separate it, right? And so all of that has led to some compassion fatigue in a different way. We know compassion fatigue can come as part of our work and vicarious trauma, all those things. But this idea of like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. We just did like a pandemic. And now we're going, okay, reentry, new normal, here we go, right? Like, how do we keep that going? Never mind the communities that we serve. So I just wanted to take a minute. I think it's important just to honor, like, holy moly. It's been big. It's been really, really big. And it continues to be big as we try to figure out the next steps. And our work was already big. So thank you very much, universe, for the, what the learnings are supposed to be taking from this. So if you haven't done, this is a Mento Meter. I'd like you to take out your phone, open the camera on your cell phone, and you're going to point it towards this QPR code. A drop down will come down on your phone that says open in Safari or whatever your browser is. And once you open that, it's going to ask you a question. You can also, so I'm going to switch out my screen to the Mento Meter. I'll put the can you see the QPR code over here? In the middle of my screen? Okay.
Now
in
we
case
can,
any-
yes. There.
Okay, just in case anyone needs it.
Can you just give us the actual numerical code for folks if they?
So they would need to go to this mentimeter.com
Oh, there it
and
is. It
use
used
this
the code there.
code up
Got it.
here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, because that's how I do it. It's easier than
Sure.
my
And
phone.
so, sure. So the question that I'd like you to share is, in addition to everything that I just presented, what unique traumas have the communities that you serve experienced in the past year? Are there things that have been unique to rural communities? Yes. Yes. Okay. So yes, the fires are environmental traumas, income, food, loss of jobs and lives. Increase in, we've seen the same. We have with both child abuse and domestic violence, we have people stuck at home with their abusers. Border camps, yes. Yes. Vaccinated or unvaccinated. The fights over that. Increased racial profiling. Yes. Lot of absolute increase in substance use disorders, or at least high risk use, right? So whether it's diagnosable or not, but yes. And if I do have substance use disorder and I'm home, right? It's much easier for me to be hiding in my disease and disconnected from from recovery supports. And perhaps perhaps now I have multiple families that are living with me. Oh, I have like a little red, it's like a color. That's not interesting. Fire is a big one. A lot of that came through. Yes, thank you. So I'll let that go. This isolation, right? Deaths of youth, accidental deaths of youth. Has a lot of that been suicide overdoses? Yeah, I know we've been seeing this. Yeah, and then imagine that in rural communities where we know those communities, there are those community hubs, right? Where people can get to, and those hubs are closed. So you can't actually get together or perhaps connect with the people you serve in the way that maybe you used to, because those places that you counted on to be kind of the hub, like maybe the librarian or the library or things, were closed. Okay. Really helpful and really devastating, truly, so much of it, right? How do we bring our services to support with all of these, again, additional stressors and traumas on the families we serve? Well, I, for one, while I don't know how I have this little red thing's going to follow us. Isn't that interesting? Somehow I drew on my screen and I don't know. So here we go. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with SAMHSA's tip 57, but if you're not, I recommend that you download it. It's a free treatment implementation plan. They have a bunch of these tips, and they're essentially guides on how to implement different areas of service delivery into your organization. And that tip 57 talks about from program design to policy, how to help your organization look through a lens of trauma-informed care through everything you do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so SAMHSA and others teach us that there are 4 R's to trauma-informed care. One is realizes, that we're realizing trauma exists and that it's universal. We recognize that it can show up in different ways. And we respond, the 4th R is not on here, but we respond without re-traumatization, right? We try to be responsive in a way that isn't re-traumatizing those that we're serving or supporting. And so the first, realizing the prevalence and impact of trauma. again, I don't think that there's any convincing that needs to be done with this group of professionals to know that trauma is highly prevalent and impacts those that we serve. In this dialogue, though, I ask us to think about from the lens of engagement. Do we think about it in that way? Do we think about the prevalence of how trauma impacts those we serve from engaging, keeps them from engaging with us, or makes it more difficult for us to engage with them? So we know that, so it's thinking about taking what we call universal precautions, just assuming everything's trauma without even having to ask. And so therefore I'm going to respond in a way that is sensitive to that. So Bryn, I'd like to ask if you could pop up the first poll. And this is aligns with the first question on your worksheet too, if you want to be taking notes. How would you rate your organization or program in realizing trauma through the lens of program design and delivery?
And depending on what browser you're using, if the poll doesn't pop up, you can type in the chat if you want, or you can keep it to yourself. You're not obligated to share. But the responses are not something we think about. We have some awareness about it, and we are aware of trauma and its impact and integrate it with excellence.
Okay. So Bryn, we'll look at those results. And again, this is really just for reflection to kind of think through some awareness about it. Yeah, I think that's where, and then a number of you are doing it, feel like as though you're doing it with excellence, which is awesome. And I think talking about that, particularly in the small groups and sharing what you're doing is a great opportunity for learning. A lot of us fall in that middle where we have some awareness, we even have beyond awareness, we have good intention. And we talk about it some, perhaps when we do our program designing, we talk about it, but when we're boots to the ground, sometimes we forget about it when we're in the moment and the stressors of the moment, right? I find that a lot in working with organizations where they go, right. When I kind of reflect back to them what I'm seeing with their delivery, they're like, yeah, we're trying to meet our contracts, we're trying to hit our numbers, we're trying to keep our staff motivated, morale up, and people engaged, get the help out there, and we kind of lose that because our own cortisol and stressors are going, and we lose that mindfulness on actually making sure we're using trauma-informed approaches when we actually get to do the work. So recognizing signs of trauma and need for support. So again, from the perspective of engagement, it's disengagement as a possible sign of trauma. Sort of defiance, no-shows, blowing you off. I said I'd show up, but I'm not going to. Inconsistently participating in services. Defensive that I don't need services. Hiding from you and just not answering the phone. Or, not getting on the Zoom, even though you gave me all the links and free Wi-Fi, all those things, right? Can be incredibly frustrating when we're coming from such a caring place and know that what we have to offer is going to help the person or persons we're trying to reach. Bryn, can you pop up that next poll, please? Again, this is just kind of for reflection as you think through the planning.
So, Melissa, it does look like it uploaded from the notes the same poll twice for the last two polls. So I have the 0 to 5 scale, but it's the same question.
Okay, well, let's look at, I can say it.
Yeah.
So for this one,
the 0 to 5, and we'll let people.
Yeah, so you're gonna rate your organization or program. And through this one, it's around recognizing. How would you rate your organization in looking at challenges with engagement, recruitment through the lens of a trauma response? So 0 is we never do. It's 0 through 5. 2 is we sometimes consider this, and 5 is we always consider trauma. Okay, Bryn, you can show the results. Okay, interesting. So we kind of, we have a sometimes, couple people we never do, a 3, 14, yeah. So it's kind of a little all over the place, but between the 2 and the 4 is the highest. So, and I shouldn't say all over the place, but there's a variance, right? And again, considering and doing are different things, but it looks like there's certainly a good number that's considering trauma and being really aware of that. And then that number 4 is almost there, but perhaps we know it, but sometimes we're just off the mark. Maybe this is a good reminder for us to talk about it more often or think about it in a different way. And then responding, right? So the idea that sensitivity to trauma is part of the human connection. Human connection is really the business we're all in, right? And that policies, practices, and words matter. So for those of us that are, maybe in the, we often consider it, we mostly do it. Sometimes it comes down to those policies, procedures, the words we're using, too, right? How do we go back and look at, what does that program flyer say? Or what's our PSA? What's our policy on no-shows? How many times do we give somebody a shot at coming for that first intake before we send the letter that says, thanks, but you didn't show up? And then what does that letter say as far as people, that maybe now's the right time, but whenever you're ready, we're here. What does that letter say? So this is, as I continue treatment improvement protocol, this tip 57, there are 6 areas of trauma-informed transformation. And I can't speak highly enough about this process. We started doing this with our own organization at Community Solutions about 6 years ago, and now have an annual strategic plan that is, each of these 6 principles has annual goals. This year is actually really focused on our staff's vicarious trauma, actually more so than our outward, our services outward, we think we got a good handle on, although we always have to come back to it. It's about how are we supporting our staff's vicarious trauma to be able to keep staff, especially over the past year and a half, right? Keep them from burning out. So let's look through and then we do work with organizations too. So I'm working actually with a substance abuse treatment provider right now in Santa Cruz, Janice of Santa Cruz, and looking at their whole service delivery through this, from HR practices and policies all the way through to how they do intakes, treatment, and then how they discharge clients, right? It becomes an organizational culture, a program culture. That red line is cracking me up. Okay, so I didn't have time. I wanted to make sure we left a lot of time for you all to work together. So we won't have a ton of time to go into the stages of trauma recovery. Actually, we have no time, but I'm going to tell you, if you haven't heard of Judith Herman's stages of trauma recovery, I would highly recommend that you look that up, Judith Herman, because she tells us that safety must come first. It's safety, then it's tell us about your trauma if you'd like to, then it's beginning to plan for the future. And so establishing safety first, sometimes that's, I'm going to bring you food because you don't have any, but not all the time. Sometimes it's, I have to, am I making sure a safety plan is part of my initial intake with you? so that you know that your safety is important to me. And that I'm creating safety with, I'm letting you know right off the bat what the safety of our program, how you can feel safe coming to us because there's no risk of, or a little risk or of deportation. We're not going to share your information. We're not going to tell on you, right? Or we're at least being clear about what our limitations are around being mandated reporters, right? That kind of thing. So safety. From a trauma-informed lens, again, it's that brain piece. So that reptile fight, flight, or freeze, when I'm experiencing trauma, and certainly your families right now, and many of us, everybody is a T-Rex and we're all lizards, right? I don't care if you come with diapers for my baby and formula, you're a T-Rex with diapers, just trying to lure me in, right? The prefrontal cortex of my brain is not established. I say to people, mindful moment, beginning of every session. Doesn't have to be a meditation. Counting backwards from 10. Finding 5 things in the room that they see. Getting those brains into the present moment and quieting down that alarm system. That's the safety we're talking about. And of course, there's also just those basic needs, but the safety is actually what builds the rapport. They don't actually need to trust you as the provider or even like you as the provider as much as they need to feel safe with you, right? Gosh, I can't, think about some of those teachers you had. You may still not like them, but damn, they were good, right? They made you feel good about the work you were doing, or you felt safe with them or whatever. So safety, trust, and transparency. So in this way, it's like, what exactly am I signing up for here? You're calling it a, whatever breastfeeding program. Exactly what am I signing up for here? How long? How much am I committing to? Right? And I found some great quotes from providers and clients in rural areas, providers saying, I'll probably make mistakes, but please teach me how to work with you. Right? Your family's family, you're the expert on your family. Here's what I can offer. Tell me what you need. How do we work together? Collaboration. Well, having 70 people or whatever on this call is about collaboration, but who am I collaborating with? And I'm sure many of you do this, but who are those natural community leaders that we're tapping into? They're the Pied Piper of their neighborhood. And if you got the Pied Piper, you're part of the band, right? And then that trust comes through that collaboration. Take it slow and easy for the first while. Start where community is. Take a step back to build relationships, to figure it out. And again, I'm sure so many of you can talk about examples of how you've done this because you're part of these programs anyway. And thinking through the challenges and how we need to rethink this as we emerge out of the crises over the last year and a half. How do we rethink this together? Where will the community be now? What's important to the community now? Who's emerged as a natural community leader that maybe wasn't seen as that before? Voice and choice. How are community members, the people that you're serving, part of creating your service delivery and your program delivery, your program design? How much voice and choice do they have about what they can, so many of our services were, well, yeah, you can get the psychiatrist, but you have to do the therapist also, and actually a case manager, which is going to require this, and this. And some of that is, this is some of that systems level stuff for advocacy. But, you have to do kind of these other things before we can really get you. It's interesting, we were just revamping our medication support services and our psychiatry services and working with a national consultant. And they were talking to us about that when they've done national polls with thousands of clients that are specifically focused on behavioral health clinics, but that they don't consider engagement or like really being in services until they've gotten what they came for, whether they chose to come or not. So we say from referral to intake, right? All right, you referred you, now we got that intake appointment. This consultant said, nope, it's not the intake, it's not the treatment planning, it's that first therapy session. That's routine care that they came for. And I thought, yeah, it's so true, right? So like when we go to primary care and I have to fill out the form and I have to do the this and I have to do the this and I need to get to the specialist, so we first have to, I haven't really gotten what I needed until I'm sitting in that specialist's office and he or she gives me what I wanted to hear as far as a diagnosis or treatment. And when we think about engagement and how we can lose engagement, some of it is just the time from referral, not to first contact, but from referral to actual, what they were calling routine care. But when I'm getting the goods, right? Not all the stuff that we've got to do for Medi-Cal or whatever, our fund, all that paperwork and stuff in the meantime. So that's another thing to be looking at is, why am I here? I'm telling you what I need. How quickly am I able to get you to what you need? Because you probably have a conversion rate or something that you look at that shows you how many people you lose from referral to service, right, through that intake process. Peer support, I'm sure that's involved in a lot of your programming, but so important. This was a breastfeeding program, right? Just having someone who's been there being able to support me so that I can see, right? Part of getting past trauma is seeing that recovery is possible and seeing hope. And I'm going to believe that much more from someone who's been in my shoes than from someone who I assume just learned it in school and doesn't know, right? And then how are we taking into consideration culture, history, and gender? In that example, you brought up such specific needs like the fires, right? For example, that's part of recent history and hopefully not, but within certain communities. Here in Gilroy, we had the Garlic Festival shooting 2 years ago. That's so woven into our fabric that anyone that's going to try to come to this community as a service provider has got to be able to connect to that history in our community for it to feel authentic and really feel like it's meeting the need, right? So what else is within your communities? If you're working within Native communities, what is not only the ethnic makeup and that form of culture, and then the cultural norms just within these small communities, right? How do we learn that and say, okay, are we taking our program, is it like a triangle and we're trying to fit it into a circle? How do we smooth out the edges to fit in, and who are the best people to sit around the table to tell us that? Sometimes it's such the simplest things, it's the simplest things. It's like that you can't, when I went up and was working with the Pomo Indians in Ukiah, and I was doing mindful moments, they said, yep, but we've got to be able to do smudging during that mindful moment. You've got to start in a circle with sage. Great, right? And then you're going to get much more buy-in than if you just do a mindfulness meditation. It's a very small example, but if that's how I'm starting my trainings and I'm doing it through that cultural lens, I'm actually handing it over to them to do. How am I handing it over to those that I'm wanting to engage? So on your worksheet, I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to pull it right out of the chat so you can, and I still have this red. I tell you, if I had tried to draw a red line on my screen today, it wouldn't have worked. Oh no, this is just Bryn being amazing. She's got Judith Herman on here. Okay. And she's got tip 57 in the chat. Here we go. I was going to be really impressed that okay, never mind. I was trying to get fancy. Let's not do that. Okay. Does everyone have their sheet?
I'm trying to re-put it in the chat.
Okay.
I'll do it again,
So,
just in case
I can reset it.
So you're going to get into small groups, and you're going to have, let's see, about 20 minutes. We're going to come back at 11:10. And you're going to talk through safety. You can pick one or two of them. You're not going to have time to do all 6. So as a group, pick 1 or 2 areas to say specifically through the engagement or retention, that might be a part of what you're wanting to talk through it for your program. What do you do well when we're through this lens of trauma-informed service? And what are some things you think you could be doing differently, or you could think through differently, given what we've kind of what has been presented so far? Does that make sense? So pick an area or two and have that conversation with each other. I'm going to give you a prompt when you have 5 minutes left in your 15-minute. And when you hit that 5 minute, you're going to start looking through, okay, wow, all these things we talked about, let's highlight what are some golden nuggets we want to bring back to the larger group. Okay? So Bryn, if you could get those breakout rooms going. There'll be about 4 of you.
Howdy, Bryn.
Hi, how can I help you?
So who would be willing to share? You can plop stuff in chat, but I'd also love to hear from some groups around some learnings, some good nuggets that you think would be helpful and fun to share.
I don't mind sharing if that's all right with everybody.
Go for it, Naomi.
Okay. So I work in Amador County. My name is Naomi, and I'm a youth advocate here at Texas Youth and Family Services. We are a nonprofit. And what we discussed in our group in the breakout session was the importance and the value of being culturally, aware and transparent and giving support, and what we all discussed in our group is it sounds like everybody has a really good foundation for training. So we can offer the extended, it's really important to offer the extended confidence when we're dealing with different families and cultures, and letting them know that they're accepted anytime that they come through our door or anybody that we're working with. The other thing that we talked about is letting families know that, maybe they're dealing with the situation with social services or where, the children have been removed from the home, but letting them know that there is a light of hope at the end of the road, and that the goal nowadays, is to always reunify families, give them the support and resources so they can make that happen.
Yeah, I love that, Naomi. So I hear inclusion, welcoming, but you said it in such an authentic way, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are we welcoming people? How are we welcoming people with our surroundings, right? How do we have trauma-informed surroundings even on Zoom, right? It's so a part of it, and especially with youth, right? They're so visually, most of the time, so visually can be turned on or turned off to our services, given what we offer and kind of how the feel is, right? So I heard inclusion, I heard welcoming, I heard acceptance. I heard you have a lot of training. And so it's also, how do you have opportunities as providers to have those brain dumps to say, okay, we have all this knowledge and probably lots of ideas, but when do we get time to just sit down and talk about those ideas? And kind of think about new ways, new strategies, and get creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thanks.
Someone else.
I'll share if that's okay.
Thanks, Angie.
So one of the things that I think our program does really well is trust and transparency. We're very transparent, and also in terms of trust, like if we say something, we're going to do it, and we really don't make promises unless we know we can follow through with them. And I think that gives us it helps build rapport with our clients, because a lot of times, they're used to having things ripped out from under them. So if we can ensure that, no, I told you this is going to happen, we're going to make it happen, that can really help. But one thing that, I'm realizing more and more that we're lacking is training around culture and, gender issues and that sort of thing. And actually the only reason I've really been made aware of this is because I took a Native American Studies course online, and I'm just realizing, oh my gosh, we don't talk about this. This really needs to be addressed because we live in a community where, we have Hoopa, we have Yurok, we have Wiyot, we have Karuk, and we're not acknowledging the land that we're on. And I think that's huge. Where I'm on Wiyot land, and I didn't know that until this year. And I've been here for 3 years. And so, I think including that in the discussion is going to make this a much more inclusionary environment for people to feel more comfortable here.
Yeah, such an important, Angie, I love that point and we're all being challenged to look at it in a different way right now, in a more intentional way, not in we've got that thing covered. And really having dialogues around historical trauma, intergenerational trauma. We may not have seen it or experienced it or even be aware of what certain people in our community may have experienced because they themselves didn't live through it.
Yeah.
But if their grandparents did, it's just, that it's not only important to them and to their cultural history, but it can be ingrained in the epidemiology of their brains.
Yeah.
That they have a traumatic response, right? And so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to add on that really quick, it's one thing to acknowledge it, but it's another thing to put practices in place that are going to actively work on decolonizing some of our practices, some of our mindset. And so, if we're not even looking at that, if we're just saying, oh yeah, we acknowledge this happened, that's, that sucks. And we're going to try to, deal with the emotional, but you need to deal with all of it,
That's right.
So anyway.
Part of the community dialogue. Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, if there are any big other nuggets, please plop them into the chat, because we're coming up on time here, and I want to make sure there's enough time for Lucy and Barbara to close. But this last slide, just wanted to provide you with some of the resources that I'm attached to. One is CS Learning, so the learning opportunities through community solutions that you can get through communitysolutions.org, and we're actually rebooting our training website, so lots more to come, but we provide workshops, trauma-informed consultation, and then we have some certificate programs launching. My email's there at the bottom. And then if you're interested in information about Celebrating Families, again, evidence-based family program for families impacted by addiction, that really focuses on ACEs and protective factors. You can check that out at celebratingfamilies.net, preventionpartnership.us, but any of those things, my email's there on the bottom. And Bryn just sent you the Mento Meter results and the slides from this presentation so that you have it all. I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you maybe just a way to think about engagement in a different way, or reminded you of a way that maybe we forget sometimes when we're in the midst of crisis ourselves. I hope that you all take care of yourselves and remember to honor the work that you're doing and your own contributions, while also kind of how it's impacting you, making sure you take time for self-care.
Thank you so much, Melissa. That was fantastic. And we had a great small group discussion, and I hope you all had a great group discussion as well. So yeah, we have 15 minutes left, and we're hoping that we could take a little bit of time and think about the next year of learning exchanges. Okay. So there's going to be, let's see, do we have our PowerPoint back up? I think Bryn's getting it up now. You're going to have a couple of ways that you can participate. Feel free to unmute yourself and hop on in. This is not a webinar, so you're able to speak freely. Feel free to chat your thoughts in the chat box as well. But we really want to hopefully engage you in the process of thinking about how to make learning exchanges work for your communities, as well as child abuse prevention planning as a way to spur on your child abuse prevention planning. So Lucy, I'm going to have you take us through the next couple of slides.
Great, thank you. Once again, great discussion. Thank you, Melissa, for facilitating the information today. And I think it's also important for us to make a note of there are elements that we want to continue learning about, or maybe we want to take a deeper dive. And so, as Barbara said, it's really important for us to share with you that these learning exchange cohort sessions are created for you by you. And we want to hear what are some of the topics that you're interested in hearing more about. What are some of the things you would like us to perhaps research and bring speakers? Because once again, we want to make sure that you can continue building your toolbox. And what we currently have is we have the dates for our next 4 sessions. So we would like for you to take a moment to maybe just take a picture of this, or you will also receive the slides. But we would like for you to maybe save the dates in your calendar if possible. We are currently working on preparing for our topic in August. And just so you know, all meetings will always occur from 9:30 to 11:30, and here are the dates. And what we are going to be proposing for the group is, as we've been talking about adverse childhood experiences, we know that ACEs is something that we are learning more about. We're looking at how we incorporate it into the work we do, become more trauma informed as an organization. And we actually are looking at securing our speaker for the next session in August. If we can move to our next slide. And our next speaker we are proposing is, Bryn, can you bring it up? It is actually, I don't know if any of you've heard of this campaign. It is the Number Story campaign, and this is in order for us to be able to support our families. It's important to note that yes, we are learning about ACEs. Maybe we're already incorporating them as part of an assessment during our intake or case management programs. But Number Story is actually about what do you do now that you know your number, and that ACE is a number, a score that is your number, but it doesn't define you. It's about, what do we do? How do we become resilient? How do we feel empowered by our score to ensure that we have a pathway to heal, or a pathway to break cycles, and to be able to be aware that this is you have within you resiliency, and what do we do now? So it's about the next step. And this is about providing you more information so that you can then share it with your clients, and to be able to work with your families, and to be able to just support you with additional tools and resources. And so we're looking at having the director of the program come and present on August 17th, and to be able to share with us. You will actually see this national campaign is being rolled out as of 2 weeks ago. And we'll see celebrities, you'll see athletes actually sharing about the Number Story and sharing their number with the world, and indicating what they actually have done, or how they've been able to utilize this as a tool to help them be empowered to seek support and help, so that it does not define them. And so we're looking at having this more information coming soon to you, but just wanted to share with you a highlight of our potential speaker. And with that, we also wanted to share another resource for you, and that is that we actually have a link for you that we are actually posting on the chat box. And you also will see the flyer here on the screen. The Rural Adverse Childhood Experiences, the ACEs Summit, is now open for registration. So if you are interested in attending, it is a 2-day virtual summit, and it will be held on September 29th and 30th. And you'll see it from 9 to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's important to just make a note if this is something you're interested in attending. I know that in the past, these, it's been very popular, or there's been a lot of demand for the summits. So just sharing resources, and hopefully you can plan ahead, because obviously there is a registration cost. And so just wanted to share these resources with you. And as I'm sharing this resource, I want you to just think about any, like Barbara mentioned, any topics that you're interested, feel free to add those into the chat box. We really are interested in helping you by facilitating these talking points, topics that are interesting, or that you may want, like I said, take a deeper dive, especially because when we're looking at child abuse prevention planning, it is a collaborative effort, and it's really about collective impact. And if we're going to have a macro impact in our county, it's important that all our partners understand the importance of identifying the priorities and what are we going to focus on. And that is what we do at Strategies Technical Assistance. And once again, if you are currently working with us, we are supporting you to get to understand the plan elements that are part of this outline of your prevention plan. And if you're not ready, we also can provide you support to be in that readiness stage, so we can support you in that way as well. So just in our last slide, you'll see our contact information, and we are here to support you. Once again, we are grant funded by the Office of Child Abuse Prevention. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move into the most critical part for us, is to hear about your feedback. And so, Barbara?
Yes, so there's a link to the evaluation that Bryn will put in the chat, and I think it's also emailed to you after the event. Please fill out the evaluation. Let us know what we've done well, what we haven't. Leah Jones had to hop off the call, and so I should have given her a shout out earlier. Leah is from Hope Shasta, and she worked with me on and Lucy on putting together the agenda for today. So what I'm asking for, if you have any interest in working with us on putting together the agendas, it's very, very painless, usually involves about a 30-minute meeting where we review sort of what we're thinking, how we're thinking of organizing the meeting. Again, we want you to, as much as possible, feel that this is your learning exchange. We want your input. Lucy gave a great idea for our August meeting. We want your feedback. If you think that's something you'd be interested in. Leah had also mentioned working with Native American communities, which is something very important in our rural areas. So that's another area that we may explore at a future learning exchange. Thinking about that link to child abuse prevention planning in all the work that we do. How do we take what we're learning here today and integrate it into our planning? So complete the evaluation. We look at everything you say. We want to make this worthwhile for you. And I want to just thank our wonderful speaker, our guest facilitator, Melissa. You were excellent. I thought I learned so much, and I hope that everybody else did as well. And I want to thank you all for your time, because that's a great gift that you give us, your time. We know that it's very, very precious and valuable. So Maria, you want to be more involved in? Excellent. She said she'd volunteer. Thank you. Wonderful. So I will write your name down. You're on my list. I will get back to you. But thank you all so much for everything, for being here today. And with that, I think we can close out unless anybody has anything else they'd like to add. Thank you all.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed being here.
You were great. And thank you, Bryn, for being our wonderful producer. Yes. She takes care of us.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for the great work you do. Our heart is with our rural counties, and so we truly appreciate you being the superheroes you are. And just take care of yourself. I appreciate that Melissa did the mindful moment